I am so excited about him sharing his experience because Jonathan is a veteran in the graphic design industry.
In so many ways.
Yes, yes. So take it away, Jonathan. Introduce yourself to the group and give us some nuggets of wisdom and all of that.
Wow. Um, I am coming to you live or semi-live from London in the UK. It's where I've been living since I came up here to go to college and never went home. I've got about 30 years experience in the graphic design creative industries. I've worked for obviously my own shop now, but before that I worked for some of the biggest branding agencies, ad agencies, worked for corporate, and I've also worked for government. So pretty much most industries, whether I've learned anything or if there's wisdom to be garnered along the way, I'll let you decide that.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about your work with large branding agencies or corporations.
Okay.
Um, Tell me something good that you found common across that.
Um, when you're working for, say, a large agency or certainly an agency that has multiple offices, say maybe a global one, then the access to clients is a lot easier. They have resources, they have relationships, and also you're not doing everything yourself. Um, there's also restrictions that come with that and responsibilities that the amount of people required to arrive at a decision on something
Mm,
may be into the tens or maybe even the hundreds. And it does take time. However, saying that, in the past, the budgets have been a lot better. You will get the custom photo shoot. You won't just go, oh, can you find it, can you find it on Flickr? Or can you just steal something off the internet? No, no, we can't. But you will get commissioned photography. You'll get copywriters. You'll have internally works well. You'll have much better critique.
mhm.
You'll have people that you can teach um, beneath you. And I mean, I purely use the word beneath as in not as many years served in the industry.
Right.
And then you've got people above you who can teach you something. And you've also got a peer group that you can go, yeah, I know you're not working on that global automotive brand. You're working on a perfume brand, but could you just take a look at this and fresh pair of eyes, that sort of thing, which is different to the experience you have when it's your own shop because the buck stops with you. So it is a mixed bag. Um, I think that it can be very exciting. It's a very good place to be, maybe at the start of your career, because you come in raw and then you can observe and just work hard, and you're in design for the pure joy of it. And that's a very precious, wonderful thing. And then you get old and cynical like me, and you suddenly realize that you have to pay people and you have to pay for buildings insurance and pay bills. But when in a large agency, you don't have to necessarily worry about that stuff. You can just concentrate on the design, and there's hopefully a good culture, a good learning culture, a sharing culture, and you can be part of that. um, I guess the some of the downsides are that you don't necessarily have complete control of your own destiny. You
Mhm.
can just be a number if it's a very big organization that maybe has over 100 different employees, and you've got project managers and you've got HR and you've got a larger headcount to deal with. Then you can fall casualty to that. Um, Also, you're serving a need a lot more. You can't explore stuff necessarily. Sometimes you can, because if you've got time and budget, but you're not as close to the client. At a junior level, you may never see the client. Everything may go through an account manager. Everything may go through a creative director or an art director, and you're just providing them with options and learning as you go. And then hopefully you will get to see how the negotiation of the client relationship works and how you present, and also how every client is different and have they all have their own little nuances. um, so yeah, the big agency and the ad agency experience is always changing. It's changed a lot in the last 20 years, definitely. You know, from the, you know, a lot of you have seen Mad Men. Um, you know, it stopped being like that in the 70s and 80s. It became something else. And then in the 80s, 90s, it was um, another sort of age of, some would say, excess. And it got a little crazy. And it always follows the economy. So, as I'm sure a lot of you out there will know, that when the economy contracts, then people have less to spend on design.
Hmm.
The non-essential, in quotes, services, things like IT and HR and design and marketing, tend to they always get put to the sword first by foolish management, really, because if there's one thing that they need to do when an economy shrinks, it's differentiate themselves from their competition. You know, it becomes
Hmm.
a much tougher world. So by severing their ties with a fountain of creativity that they have on tap, then they're actually doing themselves a disservice in the long term. So um, that industry can suffer considerably from that sort of thing. So if there's um, a bust following a boom, and you're not necessarily the top dog in the agency, then you can be vulnerable. And then you're going out into a market where maybe you haven't had to work on your own as a freelancer. And it will be a market that's obviously very tough. Like, I think the figure said that there's 60,000 freelancers just in London,
Hmm.
you know, so at different levels, different disciplines, but they're all competing for a slice of a diminishing pie. The one thing that technology has done has revolutionized the ability of small groups, small agencies to compete with the big guys. If you've got the skill and the talent, you can certainly have a website that is as good as and as persuasive as the big guys. And also, you can offer different things. There are things you can do with technology, especially digital, where you're not dependent on a £2 million printing press or a 10 color ink process. And also social media. That's another one of the channels that we have to provide content for.
Right.
And people understand that it's not always going to be polished. They like the authenticity. They like that things are real. So in some ways, some of the bigger agencies were slow to realize that. I remember talking to
Hmm.
a a guy who's a legend in the industry, you know, internationally, and he said, um, "No, John, it's just a broadcast medium. Social media is just one way." And it was like, "Whoa, dude, you are you were a god, obviously, but you've got some catching up to do." So some of the more agile, smaller agencies and partnerships were able to respond a lot quicker, and they still can. You know, it's still possible for the guerrilla style of advertising to forge ahead and do some amazing and very powerful things.
I agree totally with you. In light of the global pandemic, um, where we normally would see extreme cuts in, IT, HR, and design and marketing, like you mentioned, it forced the corporate guys to see, oh, I really can't make those deep cuts that I thought I could, or maybe I'm making it, but I'm still having to spend the money by outsourcing to a
Yeah.
freelancer because I cannot go without this. And I tell people, regardless of the deliverable, print or digital, the design still has to happen.
Yeah,
And I
they
don't
still
know
need to communicate.
where that gap was, where because of the deliverable, like, oh, we're not printing as much, so we don't need that many designers.
Well, the thing about outsourcing is a lot of it was driven by reducing headcount. People were
Hmm.
told headcount is bad because they see headcount, and over here they have to pay national insurance, um, they have to pay into pensions. You know,
Hmm.
of course, if you're freelance, you have to make your own arrangements. You have to start your own. So it was seen as, oh, you know, headcount bad. So reduce headcount, and then they went, oh, we got all those people off our books. That's good. But then they realized that the outsourcing people are actually charging
More.
more in order to compensate. So
Right.
it's a juggling act. It also does affect cash flow because internal headcount, you have to pay every week or every month, but outsource headcount, you can pay in 90 days. So
Mhm.
it is a very double-edged sword. But you, again, if they're outsourced and it's design or branding, as I'm sure you guys know, a lot of it depends on building a relationship with that client and understanding their brand and getting into the roots of it. Now, you may not have even been there at the conception. You may have picked up some brand guidelines along the way, or it could be a heritage brand that's already 100 years old. So you have to roll with what you're given. And of course, if you don't have a more permanent relationship with a group of freelancers, you have to re-educate them and have to get them on
Mhm.
speed and in sync every single time you do a new piece of work. So you end up with the same group of freelancers that you might as well employed full time anyway. Um,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
The one place where you might save is that you may not have them on, you may not have desk space.
Right.
They may be working remotely, they may be working from another country. You know, we've certainly worked that way. So they don't have to pay for the floor space, but that, again, double-edged thing. Some people work great on their own for certain projects, but there comes a time
Mhm.
when you need to be in a room. Though obviously we'd be in, I don't know, hazmat suits these days, so we don't breathe on each other. But you know, there comes a need to collaborate, and this technology has helped. You know, this Zoom and and others of its ilk has saved us to a large extent. And the fact that it's such high definition compared to jumpy, sketchy sort of webcam as it began
Right.
really helps, that you can have 20, 30, 200 people, in some sort of virtual town hall. It makes a heck of a difference, but it's not quite the same as seeing the whites of their eyes.
Yeah. In some cases, yeah, I totally agree. Now let's shift a little bit into your process.
Okay.
Um, I enjoy visiting your website, and we'll give the address towards the end. But I noticed there you have this process for taking info, experience, and imagination and molding it into creative solutions. So
Yeah.
describe that process.
So I am, after a while of working in design, I realized that I wasn't a stylist. I'm not a trendy designer. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily just churn out the current fashion or the current vogue. So I also realized that design is creativity with a purpose.
Hmm.
If you're just looking to do self-expression, then you're kind of in the art, not the design space. You're kind of in the fine art, which is fine. I like painting and doing a whole load of stuff in downtime. But when you're designing, you're normally trying to solve something or you're meeting a challenge. Now, for most of us, the challenge is um, the client wants us to change the behavior of their public or their clients. And normally that behavior is, please buy our stuff,
Hmm.
one way or another, or it's a journey towards that. And working in the branding space, I moved to a more consulting model rather than just somebody coming up to me going, oh, I need a brochure. I need a brochure. It needs to be 16 pages. Please, brochure, brochure. And you go, you have two options at this point as a designer. You can go, okay, I'll do your brochure.
Hmm.
It'll be beautiful. It'll be the best brochure you've had. We have some great print colleagues who can help you with that. We will deliver you an amazing brochure, and you deliver the brochure and you get paid and the happy days. But your other option is, why do you need a brochure?
Yes.
What's the brochure going to do for you? You're going to spend some money, which we are grateful. Oh, great client, and we need that, and that's a beautiful thing. But what's your outcome? Help us to help you, and you work through the process, and they go, well, we've got a new thing, or maybe our competitors just did a new brochure, so we thought we should, and so we then get into okay, what do you want it to do? And you go, well, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And we go, well, and then we look at who's the brochure or the activity. It now becomes, who's that targeted to or at? And you go, oh, it's this group of people. Okay, well, what's their world like? And they go, oh, we don't know. Well, you're trying to talk to them, but you don't know their language. Why is that? You go, okay, well, where do you find these people? Where do they live? Where do they, where do they enjoy? And they go, well, maybe the only place that they're consistently within that group, um, we know that we can catch them in their cars in the afternoon on the way home. So maybe a radio ad might be better.
Right.
Or how about, or in another way, you could say, let's do billboards at train stations so we catch them in their commute. Or let's train 400 people to go door to door. So you then become using design in its purest sense. You're not just, hey, I can do visual stuff.
Mhm.
I can only do brochures. So whatever your problem is, the answer is going to be a brochure. You get away from that and it becomes a lot more solution driven, which ultimately is what they're paying you for. They're paying you for the solution. If the brochure fails that they demanded, they will blame the designer. It's always the brochure
Yeah.
wasn't good enough. It's never the brochure was completely inappropriate and we forced the designer to create it anyway. So you then get to unpick a whole load of stuff. As a designer, it's more exciting because your pantheon of solutions is endless and you actually
Mhm.
let a problem lead you and define the solution in partnership with the client. And 9 times out of 10, the client will go, you know what? I could have blown X tens of thousands of pounds on a brochure and it would have done nothing. Wow. Thanks, guys. You know, and
Yeah.
and as a designer, you may not make as much as you would have made on the brochure, but what you will have is a client that will come back and they will
Exactly.
say to you, you're the guy that didn't just take the money and run. You're the guy that actually solved my problem. So I want to do that again. Or I've got a new business or I've got a new project and I trust you guys because you could have made more, but you were honest. And that pays itself back. Um, and there's also a lot of time when you work in the consulting way, you have people, especially if it's a new project or a new division or a new product that they're pushing, then they go, oh, we need you to design this. And they go, oh, what is it? And they go, product. And they go, but what's product? And they're this close to it. And that's all
Right.
and they go, well, what do you do for people? Product. And you go, oh, not enough for the product. And then you go, well, what do you do? It's like that thing. There's the old Black and Decker, right? So, do you have Black and Decker in the US?
I do. Uh-huh.
Okay, okay. Always good to check your cultural references before you
Yes.
wade in. So you go. So, what do you sell? And oh, they sell drills. Yeah, they sell drills. And they go, no, they don't. They sell the best 2-inch holes in the world. Because you're not buying a drill, you're
Right.
buying something in relation to that moment when you looked in your lounge and you went, you know what? I'd really like a picture of my family up there so that when I pass it, I can smile. I can remember the moment the photo was taken. And okay, so how do I achieve that feeling moment? And you go, well, actually, I need to hang a picture. I've got a picture. There's a great one on Facebook. Yeah, I'll take that one of, last Christmas. And I can get one of those people who are always spamming me for print your canvas. Yeah, they'll do a canvas for me. And but how am I going to get it? I need to drill a hole in the wall. So you're then facilitating something really great for the drill buyer.
Right.
And that's so you then become an enabling, a make people's life better company, not just a drill company. Yeah, the drill's great, but all the things that the drill does brilliantly that you can leverage means that they can achieve their destination, their happy point, their satisfaction, their fulfillment, or even their paycheck if they're making, cabinets for money sooner and easier and happier. So it's uncovering that, and then you get these moments of clarity where the light bulb comes on for the client, and it's like, oh yes,
Yeah.
that's what we do. Oh yes, we're not a drill company, we're an empowerment company where you can make it your own company. And so you can do that process with automotive, with drink, with beer, you can do that with sports. You know, you can do that with any brand. That process of uncovering what their essential DNA is all about, and then you can work on the values and the unique thing that they offer that differentiates them. And a lot of the time it'll be, well, other people make drills, yeah, but how do you make your drills and how do you sell them? What's the service like? What's the experience of buying your drill like? What's the experience of doing business with you? What's that like? How does it, and here's that word, how does it feel?
Yes, the
I remember
experience.
the previous one. So, folks, if you haven't seen the previous one in Facebook, go have a look at that. But you talk about an emotional connection,
Hmm.
and you talk to the lady about if you can make people feel something, you get a much deeper connection. You know, it also goes back to one of those other things you have to learn as a designer, and that is the art of telling a story.
Yes.
And that because facts will tell, but stories will sell.
Yeah.
You know, the more that you can have the viewer imagine themselves to be in the moment that you're picturing, um, the stronger the connection, which is why you need to understand the user, not the client. You know, there's been times when I've designed something for the customer on behalf of the client, and I say to the client, you will not like this
Hmm.
because you are a 60-year-old white guy who's never been on holiday, and you will not, you know, this, but your product and your range is female women in the inner city between the ages of 16 and 24. So hell if I'm going to design for you. You know, if you want this to be a success, you know. And so it's a bit like De Niro, you know, with the whole method acting. You have to
Yeah.
understand those people, and you have to learn, and you have to be humble, and you have to maybe put some assumptions aside, and you have to talk to them. If, you know, again, subject to budget and time. If you don't have budget, you don't have time, you have to use an educated guess and do your research in other ways. But I've learned so much about other cultures, genders, the whole pantheon by putting myself to one side temporarily as part of the process and just going, what is their pain? What
Hmm.
is their
Hmm.
pain points? What is their world? How do they communicate? How do they take information? How do they um, take well, influencers. There you go. Social media influencers. The amount of people who will go, actually, I'm not going to do a billboard campaign. I'm just going to find out who they follow,
Hmm.
because that's, and the one thing that is a word of caution here is it's never the answer. It's part of the answer. You need to have
Right.
a multi-channel approach, which you may not be doing as a designer and you may never do, and that's okay. But all you need to do is be aware that there may be other creatives, your partners, working alongside you that need to work with you, so that you may have somebody who's a performance artist, you
Hmm.
may have somebody who does mail drops, you may have somebody who does, skywriting, and as it's appropriate, it's a blend. You may have somebody who's setting up a call center, because the brand experience will be defined as much by your creative work as by the way the person deals with them on the phone.
I
Yeah, so
believe this whole conversation, you just wrapped up my whole coaching program. With the
yeah,
way you approach the way you do business and solve those problems. And it's so interesting that you brought up like Black and Decker or drill situation because I love being handy around the house.
yeah,
But I went through three different drills to find one that was comfortable as a female because
yeah,
it's like, oh my God, they didn't think about us when they were making these drills.
yeah.
So they can open up a whole new revenue stream and target specifically females who love home improvement and things like that.
See, I would say that Target is one of those firms that's usually ahead of the curve, or at least riding it. It's a very design-led store. If you remember, even 10, 15 years ago, they had guest designers doing items for them. So they were kind of suggesting that you should be value and celebrate design already. So it's also that form and function. Like yeah, you can have a drill, but you can actually make it aesthetic. You can make it comfortable. It's not just about doing the, it's about owning the device, not using the device,
Right.
you know, and in its lifetime. And um, is, you know, the, if aesthetics weren't important, then we'd all be driving electric milk floats wearing gray indestructible jumpsuits. You know, we'd have narrowed it down to the perfect form, um,
Right.
and that would be it. But we like um, we like to be warm and dry, but we also like to have color and express ourselves through our clothes, um, and our drills and our tool belts and our
Mm-hmm.
aprons. You know, there's also been a you know, the demarcation between what is woman's work, what is man's work.
Yes.
There's, you know, since, you know, you could almost argue since the Industrial Revolution, since men went away to war and women had to pick up the slack, you know, there's a whole load of stuff. And if you look at, certainly in the UK and to some extent the US, when the men came back from the war, you had a whole generation of women who had mechanical engineering and technical skills, who were then
Mm-hmm.
expected to go back into the kitchen. And they were
I
like,
was like,
yeah,
no.
yeah, what's that about? You know, it's like, even, you know, even the Queen it was a mechanic. She was a truck driver during the war. She can
Wow,
dismantle,
I didn't know that.
take an engine apart and dismantle it. She's in her 90s. She still drives an old Land Rover Defender, you know, the
Uh,
old rickety one herself.
mm-hmm.
You know, and that's because she was part of the Land Army we had in the UK, which was like the civilian, doing all the stuff that guys used to do, but then it just needed doing. And, you know, necessity breeds invention. And it, you know, in the same way that this pandemic has, you know, who knew that so many people could work from home?
Right.
You know, who knew that, you know, you could work half in a shirt and half in PJs all day and it was okay, you know. But it
Yeah.
is that, you know, and how companies have just had to trust their employees, um, you know, and just respect their time, and because they had no choice. And you do wonder, you know, is it difficult or is it impossible?
Mm.
Yes, you know, so there's a lot of stuff that's coming out of that, and looking at, you know, the role that design can play in that. You know, we can help a lot of businesses. You know, we're the ideas people. You know, it's
Right.
not exclusively our, you know, domain, because good ideas don't care who they happen to. You know,
Right.
that's a, you know, there's no point walking in there going, I'm the designer, I will be having all the ideas. No, because the client could actually nail it, and you need to be the smart person to go, yeah, that's it, that's the right
Mm-hmm.
idea, I
Mm-hmm.
can do something with that. So that aside, you've got a whole lot of businesses, especially the hospitality industry, retail, who are dying at the moment. Like, we're about to go into lockdown here for a month on Thursday,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that's it, nothing, you know, only essential businesses, you know. So as a designer, you know, obviously your own work is going to dry, so you've got a bit of self um, you know, self-preservation there. But think of all the restaurants that are now going to be maybe pivoting to doing takeaway or delivery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe you want to reach out to them in your local hood, if I may use the colloquial
Mm-hmm.
American expression, and go, you know, how can I help you? And you're not out to screw them just to make a quick buck. Yeah, you
Right.
need to get paid. You need to get paid. Nobody works for free. You need to get paid, but you can go, I think I can help you. You know, we can meet in the middle. Um, and we can all win from this, because you might need delivery stuff. You might need vinyls for your glass. You might need a website. You might need an e-commerce solution, an ordering solution, packaging. You might need boxes, or, you know, pizza boxes or food boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if it's not a food-based industry, then there's things like, is this item something that somebody would buy for someone for Christmas?
Yeah.
Because you can say, look, okay, this month is going to be dead, so let's work on getting your offering ready. So when we come out of lockdown, say first week in December, you can hit the ground running with delivery. Will have worked to do a fulfillment solution, you know, be it you know, UPS or FedEx or some sort of system, We'll have offerings, we'll have publicity and marketing to push it. So we can try and help you regain, assuming you're still in business, to regain the money you've lost throughout the year by turning your offering on its head. Is there something you can do by delivering, or, so helping businesses pivot. It's like twist and survive. That's kind of what business has to do. Or if they have, like, for example, a lot of our beer breweries and the distilleries in the UK said, okay, we're going to stop doing spirits and we're going to make hand sanitizer. But it's alcohol. It's like ethanol. So they did a really clever pivot. So they were active, and being active is a massive part of getting through this period. And there are, I've designed masks for several different groups,
Yeah.
with the whole graphic, and there's lots of stuff with and you see the full face masks now. Okay, so we're in a place where the masks make us less individual. So because obviously you can just see less, and your face is how people recognize you and stuff. Right. So you go, okay, so let's create some vinyls to go up these clear plastic masks. Let's make them unique. Let's make them individual. Let people customize them so that they get a little bit of themselves back. So when they do have to go and interact, people go, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. Or that's you. I remember you. You're the guy with, like the Joker, right, and that sort of horn thing. And so it's apply your creativity. Don't sit at home. Reach out to different people, and you can do it in a way that helps their business, because again, all those seeds of goodwill you plant now will hopefully come back and repay you big time.
Right. They're foundation for relationships. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So Jonathan, it's been a pleasure talking to you, but before we go, we have to know how to get in touch with you, because I'm sure other than in the Facebook group, people would want to take a look at your website and just partner with you or connect with you in other ways. So give us your website.
Okay, that would be a wonderful thing. Please do contact me on Facebook, but also our website is Harrisment. That's HARRISMENT.co.uk, not .com, .co.uk. So
exactly.
There's some stuff there that's all colorful and whizzy, but there's also forms, and you can drop us a note there anytime you like, and that'd be most welcome. So yeah, do hit me up if you need to.
I've so enjoyed our conversation, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're very welcome. Take care, everybody. Good luck and stay safe.
All right.